I was sitting alone in my uncle's old bungalow in a mountain village. I had taken time off from the office, thinking I would find some peace. But peace. It was just waiting for me. I was standing on the balcony, sipping my tea. Suddenly my eyes fell on the road below, where a girl was running fast, trying to escape the rain. The pouring rain had completely drenched her. Her clothes were clinging so tightly to her body that every curve was clearly visible. Water droplets sparkled on her white suit, and her long, wet hair was scattered across her back. Suddenly she stopped and looked up toward me. For a few moments, our eyes met. In the midst of the pattering rain, that scene felt like time had stood still. "Brother, do you have an umbrella here?" Her voice was sweet even through the rain. Without delay, I went down the stairs, opened the door, and let her in. As soon as the door opened, she quickly stepped inside. The rain had soaked her completely. A gust of cold air entered the room with her. The scent of wet earth and fresh rain came from her clothes. She was shivering slightly and, while pushing her wet hair back, said, "It feels like the sky has burst outside." For a few moments, I just kept looking at her, then composed myself and went to get a towel for her. "Thank you. I'm Shweta. I'm staying in the bungalow across the street." "The rain suddenly got so heavy that I got stuck on the way," she said with a smile. There was a polite expression on her face, a slight smile on her lips, and a warmth in her eyes. I gestured for her to come inside comfortably. While handing her the towel, my eyes fell on her wet clothes, where raindrops were still clinging. She was shivering lightly from the cold and trying to gather her wet hair. Between the warmth of the room and the rain falling outside, a strange kind of peace was felt. "Please sit, I'll make some hot tea for you," I said. She sat on the sofa and started adjusting her wet clothes a bit. Just then, her sari palu slipped slightly. Outside, the rain was pouring continuously, and there was a calm atmosphere inside the room. Seeing her beauty, my throat went dry. I went toward the kitchen, but the thought kept coming to my mind again and again, how unexpected this meeting was. After a short while, I returned with 2 cups of tea. She was drying her long hair with the towel. Her hands were raised, and the moisture of the rain was still visible on her face. She smiled at me, took the cup of tea, and said, "Looks like the rain isn't going to stop anytime soon," she said, looking out the window. "Yeah, the weather seems to have something else in mind today," I replied. After that, our conversation slowly moved forward. First we talked about the weather, then the city, and before we knew it, we were learning about each other. The sound of rain echoed outside, while a new friendship was beginning inside the room. Then I asked, "Did you come alone?" "Yes, my husband is busy with work. I came to take a little break," she said, looking at me with mischievous eyes. "And you? You're alone, right?" "Yeah. I came looking for peace." "Peace?" She laughed. "Here even the rain doesn't let you have any peace." There was something in her laughter that went straight inside me. We talked for a long time. She was a college teacher, her husband a businessman. But in the conversation, she praised her husband less and complained more about her loneliness. By nightfall, the rain hadn't stopped. I said, "Stay here tonight. There's a guest room downstairs." She thought for a moment, then smiled and agreed. That night I was lying in bed. The rain outside had become lighter and the house was almost silent. Then I heard some faint sounds from downstairs. Out of curiosity, I got up and went down the stairs. The kitchen light was on. Shweta was standing there drinking water. She was wearing one of my old shirts, which looked a bit big on her and came down to her knees. Her wet hair still wasn't completely dry and was scattered on her shoulders. As she bent forward to put the glass down, her deep neckline became clearly visible. The soft light falling on her highlighted the tiredness and simplicity on her face. When she heard my footsteps, she turned and smiled. "Oh, you're still awake?" she asked in a soft voice. "I couldn't sleep," I replied. "You couldn't sleep either." "Yeah, new place, new night," she said with a slight smile. "And sorry for wearing your shirt. My clothes still aren't dry." "Hey, no need to apologize," I said. "By the way, that shirt looks really good on you." The words slipped out of my mouth unintentionally. She smiled lightly. A soft blush of shyness appeared on her cheeks, but her eyes remained locked with mine. "Good on me?" she asked playfully, holding the edge of the shirt. "Or does the shirt look good?" I smiled and replied, "Both." That night we sat on the balcony and talked for a long time. The rain had almost stopped, but the air was still filled with moisture. Cool breezes would pass by us from time to time. While talking, she moved a little closer. Her presence and the softness of her voice made that quiet night even more special. Then, unintentionally, her hand brushed against my leg. We both fell silent for a moment. It felt like time had paused for a few seconds. She pulled her hand back with slight hesitation, but the silence between us was no longer the same as before. Looking toward the distant sky, she smiled and said, "It's strange, isn't it? Sometimes even a few hours of knowing someone feels like years old." I looked at her. Maybe some people are just like that. Talking to them feels easy. She nodded at my words. Her smile had warmth. Sitting on the balcony, we got lost in conversation again, about our childhood, dreams, and the paths that had brought us here. The night was deepening, but our conversation showed no signs of ending. The next morning when I woke up, the aroma of tea was coming from the kitchen. When I went downstairs, I saw that Shweta was already up and making tea. The morning after the rain was full of freshness, and sunlight was spreading into the room through the windows. She had now changed into her dry clothes and looked much more comfortable than before. She was arranging cups on a tray and placing it on the table. Seeing me, she smiled and said, "Good morning. I thought I'd make tea today." "Wow, this is a nice surprise," I said, laughing. She poured tea into 2 cups and handed one to me. We both came to the balcony and sat down. The trees washed by the rain were shining in front, and the earthy petrichor was mixed in the air. "Yesterday's rain completely changed the plan," she said, taking a sip of tea. "Maybe some changes are good too," I replied. She smiled. For a few moments our eyes met, then we both got lost in the calm beauty of that morning. "Shall we go trekking today?" Shweta asked enthusiastically. The weather was pleasant, so I immediately agreed. After a while, we both set off on the mountain path. Because of the rain, the trail was slippery, and in many places the path was so narrow that we had to walk carefully. While walking, our shoulders bumped into each other several times, and we laughed and kept moving forward. At one place her foot slipped. As she lost balance, she leaned toward me and fell into my arms. I immediately held her hand. For a few moments we both stayed there. Then she composed herself and said with a smile, "Your grip is strong, Rahul. If you were falling, I wouldn't let go." She burst into laughter and we moved ahead. By afternoon we reached a beautiful waterfall. The clear water falling from the mountains was sparkling in the sunlight. Shweta took off her shoes and dipped her feet in the water. Then she sat on a rock. This is part 1 of the story. If you like this story, please let me know.